Mr. Finchley Goes to Paris, adapted for radio by Andy and Eric Merriman from the book of the same name by Victor Canning. Episode 6, in which Mr. Finchley upstages a ham, demands a decision, and in which Robert goes home.
I spy with my little eye something beginning with C.
Oh, you're not going to say ceiling again, are you?
Oh, no, not now.
I think we've had that 3 times. Do you think we could stop playing now?
Yes, of course, if you wish.
I think it might be safe to get down. I'm sure the dog's gone to sleep.
I don't trust him. Look, he's got one eye half open. I think he may be just waiting for us to get down before he pounces.
I'm sorry, but we can't sit here forever.
No. Although I must say it's been surprisingly pleasant in the circumstances. I can't think where Robert's got to. I hope he's all right. He should have been home by now.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure he's fine. You're very fond of the boy, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
You know, you're going to miss Robert when Mr. Hamilton adopts him.
I shall. I've enjoyed looking after him, but he's a responsibility, and you don't feel the same about a boy who has no claims on you. I mean, if he were my own...
He could be, couldn't he?
Oh, no. He's going to Mr. Hamilton, and anyway, what do I know about children?
Well, what does Mr. Hamilton know? What does anyone know until they have one and find out? Besides, you could get someone to help you with the child. That shouldn't be too difficult. There's someone coming.
Hello.
Robert!
What are you two doing on that table?
Robert, mind the dog. Get out of the way. He's dangerous.
No, he's not. I know him. He won't hurt me. His name's Boxer. Here, Boxer. Come along. Good boy. See? He's pleased to see me.
But we're not pleased to see him. Take that dog into the kitchen and lock him in.
Come along, Boxer. I've got a nice biscuit for you.
Oh, that's better. Oh, allow me to help you down, Mrs. Grantel.
Oh, thank you. Oh, what a relief.
Yes. Now, young man, will you please explain how that dog got into this house? We both might have been savaged.
Boxer wouldn't do that. He's very friendly, especially when you call him by his name.
Yes, well, he didn't tell me his name.
I found him on the heath this afternoon when I went for a walk. Don't worry. Tomorrow morning I'll take him to the police station.
Yes, you will. The owner may be quite worried about him, and until then he can remain in the kitchen. I still don't trust that dog. Look what he's done to Mrs. Crantel's handbag.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, sorry.
Tell me, Robert, how do you know the dog's name?
It's on his collar. Didn't you see it?
No, Robert, I tried not to get that close. Are you all right now, Mrs. Crantel?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you. But I'd better be going. All that sitting around has made me rather late. Oh, by the way, in all the excitement, I've forgotten to tell you why I called round. I thought we might have a picnic on Sunday.
Oh, yes, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Crantel. That's something to look forward to.
Let me take you home to make up for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Robert, I'll see you when you return. I think we should have a little chat. Goodbye, Mrs. Crantel. I hope this experience wasn't too awful for you.
Oh, not at all, Mr. Finchley. Goodbye. And may I just say that your table manners were impeccable.
Mr. Finchley went into the drawing room, lit his pipe, settled into his favourite armchair and contemplated recent events. Since he had brought Robert back from Paris, his lifestyle had changed dramatically. He had to admit, however, that it had brought him closer to Mrs. Crantel, a rather large compensation for all the upheaval. His reverie was suddenly ended by the front doorbell.
We are looking for a Mr. Finchley, who, according to the local directory of inhabitants, lives at this address.
Have we come to the right house?
You have. Please, come inside.
Thank you.
In here.
By the way, this is my chauffeur, Perkins.
How do you do?
Mustn't grumble.
Please take a seat.
Thank you, no.
As you please.
If I may venture the opinion, sir, there seems to be all the marks of a very comfortable and prosperous household. One might almost say a well-feathered-ness.
And the bird at home, we hope. Might we see Mr. Finchley?
You may indeed. I am Mr. Finchley.
Ha ha! So you are the perverter of innocent minds.
What?
And from such villainy, from the proceeds of your despicable crimes, you furnish yourself a comfortable house and assume the guise of respectability.
What are you talking about? I haven't understood a word you've said. Who are you? What do you mean by coming into my house like this? And
Be silent. I demand the truth.
Truth about what?
He's obviously a hardened criminal. Oh. If I might suggest it, sir, force would probably prevail where your words have failed. He's kind of deaf to the sensitive beauty of speech. Shall I slug him one, sir?
No, Perkins. Force must be our last resource.
Oh, if you say so, sir.
Will you please tell me what all this nonsense is about?
It is by no means nonsense. Perhaps you will adopt a different attitude when you know who I am. My name is Esmond Lockwood.
Never heard of you.
The actor.
The famous actor.
Thank you. Myself, I make no claim to fame. It is for others to judge my art.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
But there is one pursuit in which I am capable of forgetting my profession. Possibly you may have heard of Belladonna Bilker, Belladonna Blacksmith, and Belladonna Boxer.
I haven't heard of them either.
Oh, what an actor is lost in this criminal. I will explain. The Belladonnas are dogs. My dogs. And they are all championship winners at crafts and other shows. I breed them, I nurture them, I groom them, I slave for them, and then they are taken from me. First Bilker, then Blacksmith, and now Boxer.
Boxer? Do you mean, are you talking about a bulldog named Boxer?
Let me slug him, sir.
No, his hour is coming. Yes, I am talking about a bulldog called Boxer. Perkins here exercises my dogs, and on 3 occasions within the last 2 years, my championship dogs have disappeared from him whilst he was walking them on the heath.
Ah, so that's it.
But today, you, or rather your emissary, your confederate, your young minion in crime, was not clever enough. My man saw him, followed him to this house, and then came to me so that we might take joint action. Now, can you deny that you have my dog in your house?
No, I can't deny it. As a matter of fact, I do have a dog here.
Aha! You see, Perkins, he confesses.
I confess nothing. You're making a very great mistake. It is true I have a bulldog called Boxer in this house, but he's certainly not been stolen from you. And as for Bilker and Blacksmith, I know nothing about them.
No.
I am no thief. I am a solicitor's clerk, and I demand an apology from you for the outrageous way in which you've come here and insulted me.
Did you hear that, Perkins? Not only does he steal our dog, but he displays the monstrous impertinence of demanding an apology from us. Yes, you may indeed strike him.
Thank you, sir.
I do not like to witness scenes of brutality, though I am well aware that there are times when they become necessary. So you will excuse me if I look out of the window. Carry on, Perkins.
Righto, sir. Come here, Finchley. No!
Thank you, Perkins. Can I look now? I'm sorry that I've had to resort to... Perkins, what are you doing on the floor? I don't understand.
My stomach. I feel sick.
See here, Finchley. What have you done to my chauffeur?
Technically, the combination of blows is known as the 4-in-1, but that's of no consequence. Now, perhaps you'll listen to me.
But of course. I'm all ears.
There is a perfectly simple explanation.
Hello, I'm back.
And here it is.
Mr. Finchley, what is going on?
That is what I want to know. Robert, will you please explain to me what you meant by stealing this gentleman's dog?
But I don't know this gentleman.
I am Esmond Lockwood. Please answer the question.
Ah, so you're Mr. Lockwood, the actor?
The famous actor.
I've wanted to meet you for ages.
That's the boy I followed home from the heath, sir.
Hello. What's happened to him?
Well, you should know, Robert, the 4-in-1 trick. You taught it to me, remember?
I told you it would come in useful.
If I may mention so distressing a subject, sir, I feel that I shall very shortly be compelled to vomit. So if there is no further testimony you require, sir, I will... Oh, dear.
Well, we still await your story, young man.
It's true. I did take the dog.
Ah.
I'm sorry if I've caused trouble.
But, Robert, I don't understand. Why did you steal the dog? What did you want to do with it?
I was going to give it back.
Give it back, what, to me?
Of course, sir. You see, I knew about you from my housekeeper, Mrs. Giggs, the lady who looks after you on Saturday mornings. I really wanted to meet you, so I decided to steal Boxer and then take him back to you tomorrow morning.
You're very young to be an admirer of my art.
It's not that.
Oh.
I don't know anything about the theatre.
Oh, dear.
It wasn't for myself. It's for a friend of mine. Here, please have a look at this photograph. Isn't she lovely?
Yes. Yes, quite an interesting type. But whose photograph is it, and what is it to do with me? Do you know, Mr. Finchley?
Let me see it. Oh, yes, that's Mary Peters, Robert's governess, but she's an actress by profession.
That's why I wanted to meet Mr. Lockwood. He's meant to be such a famous actor. She's told me she'd give up acting if she doesn't get a job soon, because
Robert, that's enough. I'm sorry you've been put to all this trouble, Mr. Lockwood. Robert is a rather unusual boy, and he does not fully understand these things.
I can see that his motives were honourable, if not his methods.
And I can understand the suspicion which you held me in.
Good.
I hope you'll forgive the boy's misdemeanour.
Well, I suppose the circumstances are somewhat exceptional. No doubt I can find it within myself to be magnanimous.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Lockwood. I'll fetch Boxer.
Hello, boy. Come here, come on. Yeah. Sit. That's a good boy. Well, he seems to be in good shape. Come on, let's go. Perkins?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure you're well enough to drive?
I think so, sir.
Good. Oh, and, Robert, here's my card. Hand it to Miss Peters and tell her if she will be so kind as to present herself at the Majestic Theatre at 10:30 next Monday morning. I will see what I can do. Goodbye.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Lockwood. What do you think of that, Mr. Finchley?
Well, Robert, you're a very lucky boy. Or, as our actor friend might say, all's well that ends well.
Esmond Lockwood was a man of his word, and Murray Peters was soon offered a small part in his new play. The other dramatic event in her life was her unexpected meeting with Lawrence Hume, who had just arrived back from Paris. It was not unexpected, however, to Mr. Finchley, who had deviously arranged to bring the would-be lovers together again at a birthday party for Robert. The evening was a roaring success, and it was a happy and exhausted boy who came to say good night to Mr. Finchley.
Thank you for giving me such a wonderful time. Do you know, this is my first ever birthday party?
Oh, but surely you must have had one before.
No. When I was in Paris, all that happened was Pepe would kiss me on the head and say, "Today you are a year older. Let's hope you're a year wiser."
Oh, dear. Well, I'm sure this will be the first of many. Mr. Hamilton will see to that. You'll be able to invite all your friends to the farm.
Lanky Harris said he'd visit me. Did you like him?
Yes, I did, very much. He was certainly the life and soul of the party. Where on earth did you meet him?
In Camden Town. He's a bargeman.
Oh, I see. Your pastor's catching up with you. Well, I must say he was quite gregarious. He even invited Mrs. Crantel and I for a trip on his barge.
You should go.
Oh.
It's just like the one I used to live on.
Well, perhaps. I must say you did very well for presents.
Did you see the pocket knife from Mari?
Yes, well, you be careful with that.
Did she know that Mr. Hume was coming to the party?
No, she didn't. And Mr. Hume didn't know that Mari would be here either.
But you did, didn't you?
Of course. You see, Robert, sometimes young people stand on the cliff edge of romance and they don't always fall. They often need a gentle push.
Or a great big shove. Do you think they'll get married?
Oh, I should say that would be very likely.
And what about you and Mrs. Crantel?
Yes, well, that's very different. You see, we're much older and there are lots of other considerations.
Like what?
Never you mind. Now, come on, it's late. It's time for you to get to bed. Come on, off you go.
Whilst at work the next morning, Mr. Finchley was summoned into Mr. Sprake's office following a surprise visit by Mr. Hamilton.
You wanted to see me, Mr. Sprake?
Yes, Mr. Finchley. Sit down. Of course, you know our client, Mr. Hamilton, don't you?
Yes, indeed. I was wondering when we'd meet again.
Hello, Finchley. I'm afraid I've been rather busy.
Oh, busy buying that farm for you and Robert, I suppose, eh?
Not exactly, no.
It seems that Mr. Hamerton has changed his mind about moving back to England.
Changed his mind?
Well, for the last few days I've been looking at a number of farms, and frankly none of them appeal to me. In fact, the more I see, the less inclined I am to buy a property here. I don't think I'll ever settle down in England. I'm rather like the person who said that he would die for England as long as he didn't have to live there.
But what about Robert?
I've thought about this matter carefully, and especially with regard to Robert. I decided to adopt the boy in an enthusiastic moment, and I've regretted that moment ever since. The responsibility would have tied me down, and I don't want that.
Don't you think that's extremely selfish in the circumstances?
Selfish, yes, but at least I'm being honest with you.
But you're not being honest with Robert. You gave him your word. You can't just make promises and break them when it suits you. Does it mean nothing to you that Robert will be bitterly disappointed, that his dreams are going to be swept away just like that? I think your behaviour is absolutely disgraceful.
Now, just a minute, Finchley. Mr. Hamerton is one of our most valued clients.
Not to me, he isn't.
But you must not let your personal feelings affect the firm's professional relationship with Mr. Hamerton. Besides, Mr. Hamerton is prepared to make a very generous financial arrangement for Robert.
Yes, I've decided to set aside a substantial sum for the boy's education and to give him a small income for the rest of his life.
There you are, Finchley. What do you think of that, eh?
Money is not the only issue here. We are talking about the emotions of a young boy. Will you not reconsider your decision, Mr. Hamerton?
No, I'm afraid not.
So, Robert has been abandoned twice in less than a fortnight.
It's all very regrettable, but it's quite clear that our client is not legally bound and is able to change his mind in this matter.
Well, Sprague, if you will draw up the necessary documents, I must leave. I'm returning to Paris this afternoon.
And you're leaving it to me to break the bad news to Robert?
No, as a matter of fact, I have written to him explaining the situation.
Oh, yes, I can see it's much easier for you than having to face him.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, but there's really nothing more to say. Goodbye, Sprague.
Oh, dear, yes.
Finchley.
Right. Sorry. Goodbye. Goodbye, Mr. Hamerton. Well, that's the end of that.
Just the beginning for Robert. What a thoughtless, idle parasite. No regard for anyone but himself. And to think I was taken in by him. Robert will be much better off without him.
Maybe he will. I suppose we'll have to start looking for somebody else to look after Robert. Someone who's responsible and someone who really cares about the boy. Well, someone like you, Finchley.
What? Are you suggesting I adopt Robert? Well, I mean, I'm very fond of the boy, but I still know very little about bringing up children.
We can all learn. Besides, you could get someone to help you with the child. I mean, that shouldn't be too difficult.
It's funny you should say that. Do you know, someone else said exactly the same thing to me very recently.
Well, there you are. What do you say?
I don't know.
Well, I suppose the only other alternative would be to send Robert back to Paris. Or stick him in an orphanage. They're probably not so awful.
No, I wouldn't allow that. In fact, I brought him back from Paris to avoid that happening. The boy needs a father.
And a mother. Yes. Any ideas, Finchley?
Well, actually, yes. Yes. Mr. Sprague, I want the day off. I must have the day off right away.
And supposing it's not convenient?
Well, then I shall take it anyway. And bother the consequences.
Oh, I see. Well, in that case, you'd better go. But I shall expect to hear all about it.
Mr. Finchley thanked him and was gone. He left the office, walked 50 yards up the road and turned into a public house where he ordered a large brandy and soda. A few minutes later, he was in a taxi being borne towards Highgate, like an emperor advancing to triumph.
Miss Crantel! Miss Crantel, open this door! Mrs. Crantel!
Mr. Finchley, what on earth are you doing here? You should be at work.
I have taken the day off. I wanted to speak to you.
Oh, then come in.
No, I want to say what I have to say right here.
Mr. Finchley, you've been drinking.
Oh, one brandy at the Harrington Arms, albeit a large one, but that's nothing to do with the matter. Mrs. Crantel, do you remember when you said I should adopt Robert and that it wouldn't be too difficult to find someone to look after him?
Yes.
What exactly did you mean by that?
I don't know.
Answer me. You know what I'm talking about, all right? I won't be sidetracked. You see, Mr. Hamilton has decided not to adopt Robert after all.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think that's simply...
No, please don't interrupt. I am going to adopt the boy instead. I like the child, and I think he'll be happy with me.
That's splendid. Now, perhaps we could go inside
I haven't finished.
Oh.
Stop fidgeting. Stand still and listen to me. I'm a plain man, and I deal in plain answers and questions.
Would you mind telling me what it is you're talking about?
Marriage. I once decided not to ask you this question, but now that I'm adopting the boy, I'm going to ask it, and I want from you a plain yes or no. Mrs. Crantel, will you marry me?
Oh, well, Mr. Finchley, you know my feelings about marriage. We discussed the subject once, and...
I don't want to know your opinion. I want an answer. Will you marry me?
Yes, of course I will.
What?
I don't know why you haven't asked me long before this.
You will? Oh, Mrs. Crantel, you've made me a very happy man, and I will see that I never give you cause...
That's enough of that. You wouldn't let me make a speech, and I'm not going to let you make one. I'd much rather you kiss me.
Oh.
It is customary, you know, on these occasions.
Is it really? Very well, then.
Is that it, Mr. Finchley?
Well, yes, for the time being. After all, we are outside and somebody might see us.
Well, it's very considerate of you to think about the neighbours at a time like this.
Well, now we'll go and tell Robert. He might be a bit upset about not going to live on a farm, but I think he likes us both and we'll make him very happy. Come on, let's go now.
No, not until we've had lunch. Robert can wait an hour, and I don't mean to spoil the lunch I've got cooking.
I know. Let's celebrate with a bottle of champagne.
No, I think you've had quite enough to drink already.
Oh, well, if you say so.
Now, come inside, and please, wipe your feet.
Yes, dear.
But when Mr. Finchley and Mrs. Crantel returned to his house later that afternoon, there was no sign of Robert. Their search took them upstairs to the boy's bedroom.
Robert! Robert! Where can he be?
Perhaps he's gone out with Murray.
No, something's not quite right. I thought so. His clothes have gone and he's taken his suitcase.
Look, there's a letter on his bed.
Oh, let me see that.
What does it say?
Dear Mr. Finchley, I've decided to leave because I don't want to be in your way anymore. Mr. Hamilton wrote to me saying that he didn't want to adopt me. I know that you would look after me, but perhaps Mrs. Crantel wouldn't marry you. Oh, dear. If she has to look after me as well. Goodbye, and thank you for everything, Robert.
Oh, the silly boy.
Oh, why didn't I think about Hamilton's letter? He told me he'd written to Robert.
We've got to find him. Have you any idea where he might go?
Let me think.
Does he have any money?
Not much. A few shillings.
Perhaps we ought to go to the police.
Oh, I don't think we need to do that just yet. Now, let me see. Where would he go? Wait a minute. There's one possibility. Come on, Mrs. Crantel. I think I know where he might be.
Where are we, Lanky?
Coming into Watford. We'll stay here for a while and then, who knows? The world's your oyster. How do you fancy going to Manchester,
I don't really care where we go.
I'm not sure you done the right thing running away from Mr. Finchley. He seems all right to me.
He is all right. I like him very much. That's why I ran away.
I don't understand that.
My French guardian, Pepe, always said when you can't solve a problem, leave it.
Oh, yeah? Well, that sounds very French.
You would have liked Pepe.
Maybe. I met a Frenchman once in a Tottenham Court Road pub. Nice bloke. He did me out of 5 bob. Oh. Hello, what's happening? Here, what do you think you're doing? Leave that horse alone. What a cheek. Those people have stopped my horse.
Oh, no! It's Mr. Finchley and Mrs. Crantel. Quick, I better hide.
Too late, Robert. They're here. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Lanky.
Robert, are you all right?
Yes, I'm fine. How did you find me?
You lived on barges most of your life, Robert, so I guess this is where you'd be. And the gateman at Camden Wharf told us the rest. I want you to know it's a very expensive taxi ride to Watford.
Sorry about that, but you see, I'm going to Manchester.
Oh, no, you're not. From now on, you'll do what your father tells you.
Who?
Your father. Me.
What?
I'm going to look after you now. Yes, you're going to live with me.
But what about Mrs. Crantel?
She's going to live with me as well.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I never.
Mr. Finchley and I are going to get married, and we want to adopt you.
Lanky, did you hear that?
Yeah, well, you probably wouldn't have liked Manchester anyway.
Hooray!
Steady there, Robert, steady. Mind the grease.
Don't go turning the edge. Robert, look out! Dad!
Oh, Robert, are you all right?
Yes, but it's cold.
Oh, but don't worry, it's not deep. I'll fish him out. Now, where's me boat?
Oh, do be careful.
Oh, I've done this loads of times.
Lanky hooked the back of Robert's trousers and with a mighty swing lifted the boy from the water and dropped him neatly on the towpath.
With the compliments of the captain of the Millie Brown. And may I never land a better catch than what you got there.
Look at you, Robert. You're soaking wet. We'd better get you into some dry clothes before you catch your death of cold.
Don't fast. You're not his mother yet. Now, come on, Robert. The taxi's waiting for us.
And I've already told him to take all of you to Nassington Avenue, Hampstead.
Yes. Come on, everyone. We're going home.
In episode 6 of Mr. Finchley Goes to Paris by Victor Canning, Richard Griffiths played the part of Mr. Finchley, James Grout was Mr. Sprake, Nicky Henson was Hamilton, Anna Cropper was Mrs. Crantel, James Cohen was Robert Gillespie, Edward de Souza was Esmond Lockwood, Richard Ridings was Perkins, and Alex Arkell was Lanky Harris. The narrator was James Villas. Mr. Finchley Goes to Paris was adapted for radio by Andy and Eric Merriman, and the producer was Gareth Edwards.